Somewhere deep inside one of the most hostile places on Earth, something impossible is happening. A desert that swallowed entire civilizations, a place ancient travelers called the Sea of Death, is turning green. Not slowly, not quietly, at a scale so massive you can see it from space. China is building a living wall, not from bricks, not from steel, but from hundreds of millions of trees, stretching over 4,500 kilometers across the northern edge of the country, longer than the Great Wall of China itself. They call it the Green Great Wall. And the story behind it? It involves buried villages, a disease that killed over 1 billion trees overnight, solar towers heating molten salt to 540 degrees Celsius, and a highway built straight through the heart of a desert that kills everything it touches. So the real question is, how far will nature push back? To understand what China built, you first need to feel what China lost. It's the winter of 1993. Beijing, a city of 11 million people. A resident named Wei Guochang, a schoolteacher, steps outside at 8 in the morning and stops. The sky isn't blue, it isn't grey. It's the colour of rust, a deep, suffocating orange, and the air tastes like dry clay forced down your throat. His daughter pulls at his sleeve. "Dad, where did the sun go?" He had no answer, because even he didn't fully understand what was happening. What Wei was witnessing wasn't supernatural, though it certainly felt like it. It was a haboob, a catastrophic sandstorm rolling off the Gobi and Taklamakan deserts, carrying millions of tons of fine particulate dust at wind speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. By the 1990s, Beijing residents were wearing masks for over 80 days a year just to breathe outside. And the source? The Taklamakan Desert, a geological trap formed millions of years ago when the Tian Shan Mountains to the north and the Kunlun Mountains to the south sealed off nearly all oceanic moisture. The basin between them became a pressure cooker. Average annual rainfall? Less than 100 millimeters. Summer temperatures? Above 40 degrees Celsius. Winter? Below minus 20 degrees Celsius. Winds? Constant, merciless, directional, always pushing outward, always expanding. But here's what nobody talks about. The desert wasn't always this hungry. For centuries, overgrazing stripped the grassland buffer zones. Farmers drilled too deep into the water table. Entire forests were cleared for agriculture during population booms in the 1950s and 60s. The land, exhausted and stripped bare, simply gave up, and the desert crept forward, swallowing villages whole. In some regions of Inner Mongolia, entire towns were buried under dunes and abandoned by the late 1970s. Nature doesn't send warnings, it just moves in. November 1978. China's State Council signed an order that most scientists at the time quietly called delusional. The 3 North Shelter Belt Program, internationally known as the Green Great Wall, was officially launched. The target? Plant 35 million hectares of new forest across China's northern frontier by 2050. That's an area larger than Germany. Forest coverage in China at that time stood at barely 10%. The goal was to push it past 25%, in a desert, in one of the harshest climates on Earth. The project was divided into 3 massive zones: the Xinjiang Autonomous Region in the far west, heart of the Taklamakan, the Inner Mongolian Plateau, where the Gobi was advancing at over 3,600 square kilometers per year, and the Heilongjiang province in the northeast, where permafrost and cold winds eroded what little topsoil remained. But here's where it gets interesting, because the engineers had a problem no textbook had ever solved before. You cannot just plant a tree in a sand dune. The sand shifts. Dunes move, sometimes 10 to 30 meters per year, burying everything in their path. Wind erosion rips seedlings straight out of the ground within hours of planting. And the water? There is none. The nearest rainfall is hundreds of kilometers away. So what did they do? The solution came from an ancient farming technique, reimagined at industrial scale. Straw checkerboards. Teams of engineers and tens of thousands of labourers were dispatched into the deep desert. Some areas had no roads, no shade, no water supply. Temperatures on the dune's surface exceeded 70 degrees Celsius during peak summer. Workers wore thick cloth wrapped around their faces, their boots sinking into sand with every step. One veteran worker, Zhang Yinbo, who joined the project in 1985 and worked the dunes near Shapotou in Ningxia province, described it this way in a later interview. "We would wake before sunrise to beat the heat. By 9 a.m, the sand was already burning through our shoes. We dug trenches by hand. The wind would undo 3 hours of work in 20 minutes, and we would just start again." The method was precise. Workers dug shallow trenches in a 1 meter by 1 meter grid pattern across the dune surface. Into each trench, they pressed bundles of harvested wheat and rice straw, half buried, half exposed, forming a rigid lattice across the sand. From above, the result looks like a vast golden checkerboard pressed into the desert floor. But this checkerboard isn't just aesthetic, it's engineering. The straw barriers reduce wind speed at the surface by up to 60%. They trap moisture from dew and prevent fine sand from migrating. The micro-sheltered zones created inside each square lower the ground temperature enough to allow biological activity. Then, at the center of each square, a seed. Species were selected with surgical precision. Saxaul, Haloxylon amodendron, a tree that can survive on just 50 millimeters of annual rainfall, and whose roots can penetrate 15 meters into bedrock, searching for water. Desert poplar, Populus euphratica, ancient, drought-hardened, found in fossils dating back 6 million years. Red willow, Tamarix ramosissima, salt-tolerant, wind-resistant, capable of stabilizing entire dune faces within a single growing season. Over weeks, the straw decomposes. Microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, early-stage soil biomes begin colonizing the organic matter. The desert floor, which had no biological life for centuries, begins building its first millimeter of topsoil. And this is where something almost miraculous happens. The plants don't just survive, they communicate. Through underground fungal networks, what scientists call the mycorrhizal web, the root systems of neighboring saxaul trees begin sharing water and nutrients. Weaker seedlings are fed by stronger ones. The desert, for the first time in generations, starts acting like a living system. But trees alone couldn't solve the water problem. The deeper you go into the Taklamakan, the further you are from any river, any rain, any moisture source. In 2003, engineers began designing what would become one of the most audacious engineering projects in modern history. The Tarim Desert Highway, 436 kilometers of asphalt cutting through the absolute center of the Taklamakan, had already been built between 1993 and 1995 at a cost of 1.75 billion yuan, roughly 260 million US dollars. Construction crews worked under sandstorm conditions, laying a foundation of geotextile mesh, gravel, and compacted straw mats beneath the road to prevent the dunes from reclaiming it. But to protect the highway and the green belt alongside it, water was essential. China's answer? 86 solar-powered pumping stations installed directly along the highway corridor. Each station uses arrays of photovoltaic panels, elevated 2 meters above the sand surface to allow air circulation and plant growth beneath them, to generate electricity. That electricity powers deep well pumps that pull groundwater from aquifers over 100 meters underground. The water is then distributed through drip irrigation pipelines buried beneath the sand surface, delivering precise amounts of moisture directly to root zones of over 200,000 trees along the highway. The result? The Tarim Desert Highway Greenbelt became the world's first carbon-neutral desert expressway. Sunlight generates power. Power extracts water. Water grows trees. Trees absorb CO2. In an area that receives over 2,700 hours of sunlight per year, among the highest solar irradiance zones on Earth, the desert's greatest curse became its most powerful resource. You're watching this unfold in real time. If this kind of hidden in plain sight engineering amazes you, hit like and share this video. There are people in your circle who need to see this. By 2023, China's official data showed that over 30 million hectares of degraded land had been restored. Sandstorm frequency had dropped by 82% compared to the 1980s. The number of dusty days in cities like Kakia fell from over 100 per year to just 30. The Greenbelt now absorbs an estimated 20,000 tons of CO2 annually. But not everyone is celebrating. In 2000, an outbreak of a fungal pathogen, Marsanina brunea, swept through the fast-growing poplar forests of Hebei and Shanxi provinces. Within 2 growing seasons, over 1 billion trees were dead. Read that again. 1 billion trees gone. The problem wasn't nature, it was the planting strategy itself. Monoculture forests, rows upon rows of identical species, are biological deserts in disguise. No biodiversity, no ecological resilience. One pathogen, one drought, one temperature anomaly, and the entire system collapses. Several independent studies, including research published by the Chinese Academy of Sciences in 2011, confirm that in certain regions, desertification had continued to expand during the same years China was reporting massive reforestation numbers. The trees were being planted, but the wrong trees, in the wrong places, without the complex, layered biodiversity that a real forest needs to survive. Ecologists like Professor Shixiong Chao from Beijing Forestry University spent over a decade documenting the failure zones, areas where fast-growing poplars had depleted the water tables so severely that native vegetation had actually decreased after the planting programs began. The desert wasn't defeated, it had simply been delayed. So here we are, 45 years into the largest ecological engineering project in human history. Billions of dollars spent, billions of trees planted, sandstorms down, forest coverage up. And yet, the desert is still pushing back. The scientists aren't pessimistic, they're recalibrating. The new strategy, being rolled out across pilot zones in Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia since 2018, focuses not on how many trees you plant, but on what kind of ecosystem you rebuild. Native grasses, shrubs, mixed species woodlands with deep root systems that evolved alongside the desert for millions of years. Restoration that works with the land's natural memory, not against it. Because here's the truth that no government report will say out loud. You cannot trick nature into healing. You can only give it the right conditions and then get out of the way. The Green Great Wall isn't finished. It may never be fully finished. But what it represents, an entire civilization deciding to turn and face the sand rather than flee from it, that is something no satellite image can fully capture. A schoolteacher's daughter once asked where the sun went. Today, in the green belts outside Urumqi and Dunhuang, children are planting trees their grandchildren will one day shade themselves under. That's not just engineering, that's faith in the future.